Hi there, and welcome to the Sunny Days podcast. And happy Cinco de Mayo Day to those of you celebrating. I'm your host, Jolly, and today we've got a couple of uplifting stories, some did you know, and more. So grab a cup of sunshine and let's get started. First up today, the headline reads Millions of wildflowers now delight the community where a Vermont couple used to spend all day mowing grass. Oh, on a small Vermont countryside community comes the story of two Long Islanders who ditched the mowing their massive lawn and planted wildflowers instead, delighting the neighbors, the birds, the bees, and the butterflies. They steadily have grown their wildflower meadow to 2.5 acres, which has become so popular that it's inspired others nearby to do the same thing. Well, let's hear about them. Jonathan Yako and Natalie Gillard started their makeover during the pandemic when Natalie had lost her job and Jonathan's hours were cut. He still worked remotely for the same company he had when they lived on Long Island and told the Washington Post that their 5 acre property in Chittenden used to boast a sea of grass that required a whole day of mow and trim. Well, wanting to do something different, they explained their predicament and exhaustive mowing to a local whom they befriended, who just so happened to work for a company called American Meadow. It would cost the couple a couple of $100 and require a fair amount of initial work, but the friend suggested they plant a wildflower meadow that would grow on its own ever afterward. They liked the idea, so they ripped up an acre's worth of grass, tugged out all the large stones, tilled the land, threw down the contents of a 50-pound bag of wildflower seed containing 27 specimens, and they waited. Well, in the spring of 2021, they arrived. First came the baby's breath, then came the red and yellow poppies, then pink catchfly and bright orange sulfur cosmos, red columbine, and purple foxglove. We had no idea what we'd be looking at after we first planted the meadow. But that was the fun part, Jonathan said. And what's so cool is every couple of weeks, the meadow looks totally different, Jonathan says. You don't know exactly what's going to come up or when it's going to come up. And that's part of the magic. The community loves and showers the couple with support. We started this as not wanting to mow grass, never expecting it would become what it has become, Jonathan says. Now we're helping the bees. We're adding to the beauty of the landscape, and we're making the community happy. That's great. And a super sunny days shout out to you guys. Thanks for making the world literally a more better place. And now a jolly chat we'll call the calamity of Miss Jane. In the bustling town of Tulsa, Oklahoma, during the 1930s, there was a saloon that stood out from the rest. It was known as the Lucky Strike, a place where the drinks flowed freely, the music never stopped. But what truly set the Lucky Strike apart was its bouncer, a stout, 6 foot tall German woman named Jane. Miss Jane was a force to be reckoned with. Her broad shoulders and no nonsense attitude made her a perfect candidate to keep the rowdy patrons in line. Despite her intimidating appearance, she had a kind heart and a sharp wit, endearing her to both the customers and the staff. Well, on one fateful night, the Lucky Strike was busier than usual. The bar was packed with cowboys and gamblers and locals all looking for a good time. Miss Jane stood the entrance, checking IDs and keeping an eye out for trouble. As the night wore on, a group of troublemakers started causing a commotion at the back of the bar. They were loud and unruly, and clearly had one too many drinks. Miss Jane wasted no time in stepping in, her booming voice silencing the room. All right, you lot, that's enough. Either you settle down or get out, she shouted, her accent thick with authorities. Well, the troublemakers didn't think kindly to being told what to do. One of them, a burly cowboy with a chip on his shoulder, took a swing at Miss Jane, but she was quicker, dodging his punch and delivering a swift kick to his shin. The cowboy howled in pain, but Miss Jane wasn't finished. With the strength that surprised everybody, she hoisted him up by the collar and marched him to the door, tossing him out onto the street with a warning he better never come back. The rest of the patrons watched in awe as Miss Jane single-handedly restored order to the saloon. She returned to her post at the entrance, a satisfied smile on her face. From that night on, Miss Jane was known as the Calamity of Tulsa, a legend in her own right. The Lucky Strike thrived under her watchful eye, and the patrons knew that as long as Miss Jane was around, they were in good hands. The end. And now, a happy birthday shout out. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, it was a season for celebrating, and for one Albuquerque family, last December merits an extra special celebration. Edith Elske's 100th birthday. Miss Edith was born in Oklahoma in 1923. She is one of the last generation shaped by the Great Depression and World War II. World War II was a big part of my family. I had 2 brothers and 3 brother-in-laws that all went to heavy, heavy duty. So I was really a part of the war because it was such a worry, she says. Today, I don't think people realize how bad it was, what a worry it was, and how very scary it was. During the war, Miss Edith started working for the Air Force. She moved to New Mexico with her late husband, getting a job with the Department of Energy. The streets that are all paved now, they weren't paved then. It was just a little town, Miss Edith says. I really thought we'd be here only for a year or two, but here we are all these years later. I love the weather. I love the people here, and it's just a nice place to live. At this age, she said, there have been a lot of lessons from life. I think that's true of everybody, says Miss Edith. We all wish we had done something different. We learn because we do this, and we do it for the best. She attributes her long life to being surrounded by family, a healthy lifestyle, and a nightcap. I still have my cocktail every night, says Miss Edith. I asked my nurse recently, is that okay? And she said, yeah, that's fine. Miss Edith is also a big fan of the Kansas City Chiefs. Every Sunday I say, when are the Chiefs going to be on? I love Patrick Mahomes. I'm sure I'm his oldest fan. We should let him know that, she says. Okay, Mr. Patrick Mahomes, we're letting you know that. Miss Edith is one of your biggest fans. Miss Edith has four children, 5 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandkids. She celebrated her centennial milestone with all of them. A very happy Sunny Days birthday to you, Miss Edith. And here's some did you know facts about what else? Cinco de Mayo Day. What is Cinco de Mayo? Well, in looking this up, I found out that, first of all, there were still a lot of common misconceptions surrounding Cinco de Mayo, despite the fact that it's a celebrated holiday around the world. For example, some people confuse it with Mexico's Independence Day or the Day of the Dead, which actually take place in November each year. The real origin of Cinco de Mayo dates back to 1862, when Mexico conquered the French at the Battle of Puebla. This was a significant event in Mexico's history because the country was the underdog of the battle, with fewer men and fewer weapons on their side. In the end, Emperor Maximilian of Austria took over the rule of Mexico, and the French had control over the country for 5 years. Although the French did ultimately win the war, the Battle of Puebla was an important source of pride for Mexico, and as such, still calls for celebration today. Did you know Americans started celebrating the holidays in the 1930s? Although Cinco de Mayo was declared a national holiday in 1862, it wasn't until 1933 that Americans started celebrating it too. This is thanks to President Franklin Roosevelt, who started the Good Neighbor policy to forge stronger ties with the South and Central American countries. Oh, fun fact. And did you know more than 350,000 gallons of tequila are consumed on each year on Cinco de Mayo? Well, Cinco de Mayo and tequila are pretty much synonymous at this point. In fact, it's been estimated that these 350,000 gallons of tequila is a yearly occurrence, which equals to a dizzying amount of margaritas. Yes, pour me one, please. Thank you. And did you also know what's eaten? The U.S. eats 81 million pounds of avocados on Cinco de Mayo Day. It wouldn't be Cinco de Mayo without some delicious guacamole and chips to go with that wonderful margarita. Agreed. And how about the official dish of Cinco de Mayo? Well, although dishes like tacos, burritos, and guacamole are mostly commonly associated with Cinco de Mayo, these actually aren't the most authentic Mexican foods you can eat. The holiday's official dish is called mole poblano, which consists, among some other things, of chicken, turkey, rice, has a decadent topping of sauce made with dark chocolate and plenty of spices. The dish typically requires more than 20 different ingredients and is hours to make, but the end result is very, very well worth it. Happy Cinco de Mayo Day. And now, in the entertainment news. Well, Beetlejuice, don't say it again. It's finally showtime. And after years of rewrites and delays caused by the pandemic and writer's strike, the sequel to Tim Burton's 1989 hit Afterlife comedy is just months away from possessing the big screen. And a lot has changed. Beetlejuice is now married. Lydia has a daughter, and there's a new detective in the netherworld who just might be able to tell us more about how the freelance bioexorcist bit the big one. Starring Catherine O'Hara, Jenna Ortega, Monica Bellucci, Winona Ryder, and Michael Keaton, to name a few. And it will be released September the 6th this summer. Can't wait to see it. And next, The Wild Robot. It's based on Peter Browning's award-winning children's book, The Wild Robot. It tells the story of Roz, an intelligent hunk of metal plopped into the great outdoors, where only Mother Nature's creatures dwell. Unsure of why she's there, Roz learns to adapt and wins over the animals' friendship until her past threatens to destroy everything. A comment on the intersection of nature, technology, and acceptance. This is just the first tale in a series of 3, so we may expect some sequels in the future. Starring Vin Rhames, Mark Hamill, and Matt Berry, just to name a few, and it will be released September the 20th. Another good one coming out. And last but certainly not least, let's take a mention to Paddington in Peru, the lovable marmalade-crazed bear whose iconic blue duffel coat, impeccable manners, and tweed English accent win over hearts every time he makes an appearance, is getting yet another chapter in his self-titled film franchise. Always rife with adventure, the Paddington movies are as charming as they are fun to look at. And the Brown family's edition is no different, as the Pea Bear and his humans head to his native Peru to visit his Aunt Lucy, unaware of the mystery that awaits them. Whoa, can't wait for that one either. Starring Olivia Colman, Antonio Banderas, Julie Waters, Hugh Bonneville, just to name a few, and it will be released coming out November 8th of this year. And now some big news in the music world. As a matter of fact, I'd just be remiss if I didn't just say it's all about Miss Taylor Swift, as she ranks numbers 1 through 14 on the top 100, rewriting the record which she logged on November the 5th, 2022 date chart, when she became the first artist to boast the entire top 10 in a single week. Well, here's a recap of Taylor Swift songs that are in the top 10 spots of the Billboard's top Hot 100. At number 1, Fortnite. Number 2, Down Bad. Number 3, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. Number 4, The Tortured Poets Department. And number 5, So Long London. Number 6, My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys. Number 7, But Daddy, I Love Him. Number 8, Florida, featuring Florence and the Machine. Number 9, Who's Afraid of Lil' Ol' Me? And at number 10, Guilty as Sin. Well, with her 12th Hot 100 number 1, Taylor Swift passes Whitney Houston and ties Madonna and the Supremes for the 6th most leaders in the chart's history. Now, just a quick cap of the most Billboard Hot 100 number ones. The Beatles hold 20, Mariah 19, Rihanna 14, Drake and Michael Jackson at 13, Madonna, the Supremes, and Miss Taylor Swift are holding at 12. Wow, congratulations to you, Taylor Swift. That is quite a feat. And as we come to a close of today's episode, let's remember that the stories we shared can serve as a reminder of the goodness that surrounds us every day. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So find your beauty, shine, and share it. Remember to spread love, positivity, joy, whenever and wherever you go. We'll see you next week for some more stories, entertainment news, and some fun facts, and even more. Until then, peace and love always. And thank you for tuning in to the Sunny Days podcast at jollyville.com. That's JALEAVILLE.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.